Like a fool, TikTok gave me the 10-minute feature, so now I will tell you about my version of a Winnie the Pooh horror movie. First off, we would open in the Hundred Acre Woods with Christopher Robin playing with Pooh and friends. All of them are having a very good time until Christopher Robin looks up and notices how high the sun is in the sky and says he has to go home for lunch. All of his friends good-naturedly say, "Oh, don't go," but he responds that "I'll be back tomorrow, don't worry." He runs out of the Hundred Acre Woods, and it is revealed that through a portal in the forest behind his house, he is able to go there. This forest is inside of this, massive tree. It looks like just a crack, but it's an actual gateway. Upon arriving home, he goes to his father and tells him all about the adventures he had that day with Pooh and Rabbit and Piglet and Eeyore and Tigger. His father listens intensely, taking down notes, and goes to his typewriter where you can see that there are books of Winnie the Pooh and his son Christopher Robin's adventures. Time passes, acclaim and fame come to it, and Christopher Robin is around 9 years old. He's still coming in every day, telling his father about the stories and the adventures he has gone on, but instead of being enraptured and being motivated to write more books, his father is worried. Him and his wife have a late-night discussion about Christopher Robin's imagination and how he is still connected to this fantasy world. Christopher Robin overhears his mother and father planning to send him to a boarding school after the summer ends, and disheartened and dejected, he goes to the Hundred Acre Woods. There's a really iconic scene in old school Winnie the Pooh where Pooh has a little pop gun, and I want a scene like that. Christopher Robin wakes him up and he has a little pop gun, and he's like, oh. Christopher Robin laments to Pooh about how he's going to have to leave home soon. He explains what a boarding school is and how he might not be back until he's a man. To his surprise, Pooh becomes enraged, essentially yelling and screaming that he can't leave and they can't do this. And Christopher Robin, never seeing his friend have any sort of high intense emotion like this, gets scared and leaves the wood. The next morning, Christopher Robin is scolded by his mother and father because they notice, muddy footprints and all that kind of stuff, and they're like, "You were out of your room." Christopher Robin tells his father how Pooh reacted incredibly negatively to the information that he'd be going off to boarding school, to which his father has a sit-down with him and sternly tells him how Pooh is not real. Christopher Robin decides to make the best out of a bad situation and continues to go to the Hundred Acre Woods. However, he notices that his friends are becoming more and more hostile every time he must leave. Prior, in old interactions, they good-naturedly said, "We'll miss you, please don't go," just a few more minutes, but now it has become forceful, them grabbing him sometimes, them demanding he sit back down. He notices that on his way back to the gateway, each and every time, the woods become darker and denser. The branches and trees seem to grab at him. There are animal sounds that make him want to run back to the shiny meadow where his friends are. He perseveres this every day and continues to tell his father what he is seeing. However, his father no longer wants to hear his stories and demands that Christopher Robin keep all of this to himself. Christopher Robin is so used to telling his father these stories, so used to having them listen to him and listen to what he's going through, that he begins to draw pictures of all of the new adventures that have been happening to him and keeping them in his room. Finally, the day before he is meant to go to boarding school, he goes to the Hundred Acre Woods for the last time. With him, he brings treats and snacks and all sorts of drawings and little crafts he made for all of his friends. He tells them how they are going to have a big party, and they all are very happy and celebrate together, and he reveals at the end that he is going to be leaving tomorrow, and he might not be back for some time, to which the entire wood, as well as his friends, fall deathly silent. He notices now that something under their pelts are shifting erratically. He notices how their eyes are no longer filled with life, but turn flat and placid. How they are gripping their cups and silverware with a force that he has never seen them exert before, until Pooh finally speaks and says, "No." Voice unnatural and twisted and frightening Christopher Robin. He gets up slowly, but they rise with him. As he tries to move away, they follow him. Until in his panic, he breaks out into a full sprint, and all he hears behind him is Pooh say, "Oh, bother," before the pounding of footsteps and the screaming of a myriad of voices follow him as he tries to make it to the gateway out of the wood. The forest now becoming actively hostile, branches swooping down, cutting him, grabbing him, trying to pull him back to the meadow, trying to keep him there till his friends arrive, and he sees the gateway slowly covered with branches, brambles, and thicket. Out in the real world, Christopher Robin's father goes in his room and notices all the drawings, notices how they start off so light and friendly, but over time, the visages his son sees become more and more twisted, just slightly off every visit. He sees in the writing on the drawings how distressed Christopher Robin is that his friends are mad at him for leaving and that he doesn't want to leave, but he has no choice. Something that makes his father proud, however, is that the final picture is Christopher Robin being resolute in the fact that he is going to boarding school. He is going to grow up, and that he will always carry his friends within him, even if they were quite mad at him at the end when he had to leave. The father, filled with pride, decides to go find his son and comfort him about the perils of growing up, especially in a world post-World War I. However, as he's searching for Christopher Robin, he can't find him anywhere. He begins to call and scream, even getting his wife, getting his neighbors, getting the entire town to search for the boy. Some think he may have just run away, but the father can't believe that given the final picture he saw. It isn't until he started looking through his old stories he wrote based on Christopher Robin's adventures, looking through the old pages and the drawings that Christopher Robin has done over the years, including these new ones, that he realizes maybe these friends aren't imaginary. One of the books on his shelf is an old one, talking about fae creatures that live in the woods, that lure children with magical worlds and treats and tricks, and then keep them. With this, he begins to learn more and more about these creatures, how they can shapeshift, how they'll take on the persona of things that a child finds comfort in. With this information, Christopher Robin's father looks to the glass case by his writing desk. The case is filled with the stuffed animals of Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, Eeyore, Kanga, all of them. He always found it strange that at the beginning, Christopher Robin was so attached to these plush toys, until one day he gave them back to his father, saying he didn't need them anymore. At the time, Christopher Robin's father thought this was a sign of him growing up and growing past it, but the imagination and games and adventures still continued. His father, now realizing that whatever is lurking in the woods has been grooming his son to steal him away. While looking through the pictures, he notices the big, odd tree with the split in the middle, realizes this is the gateway to the other world, and with a rifle in hand, as well as a knife, as well as his books, he ventures into the gateway and into the 100-acre woods. Inside, the forest is still gnarled and twisted and cruel. However, using his, adult strength and body and wits and mind, he is able to make it through to the meadow. The meadow is no longer ethereal and shining. It is instead dark and dreary. And as he calls out for Christopher Robin, voices call back. He sees Pooh and Piglet, Kanga, Tigger, Eeyore, the entire gang. However, the way they are moving doesn't feel like their bodies belong to them. It feels like something is inside them making them move. He realizes whatever glamour these creatures have been using on his son have slowly been disintegrating as Christopher Robin has gotten older, to the point now that he recognizes that they are just wearing the skin of once beloved childhood toys. The father demands his son, gun in hand, and Pooh allows Christopher Robin to go with his dad. However, he makes one final plea. The meadow becomes ethereal again and beautiful. The toys become plush and inviting and kind once more. They tell Christopher Robin how here he'd never feel pain or sorrow, never have to grow up, would never be alone, wouldn't have to go to a stinky boarding school, and become a grumpy man that hates his son like his father. Christopher Robin rejects this, and in that rejection, the entire cast of friends turn into one homunculus and chase the pair down. Using his weapons and wits, the father is able to get him and his son out of the 100-acre woods before they can be grabbed. He then sets the gateway alight. The next day, Christopher Robin is at a train station, his father fixing his tie and giving him a kiss on the forehead, telling him how proud he is of the man he's becoming. He then gives Christopher Robin the original Pooh plushie and tells him that while he does need to grow up, he doesn't have to grow up too fast. Christopher Robin gets on his train, waving goodbye, and waving Pooh Bear's hand goodbye as well. With a tear in his eye, his father waves back.